Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. My name is Chris. I am here with Brian,
What's going on?
Jake,
Hey guys.
and Jeremy.
What is up?
PlayStation 5 is what is up, Jeremy. We're getting a PS5 launch event in early June. It's basically confirmed that there's like an Edge magazine, or there is a magazine that will be printing June 2nd that will have all the games. So the idea is that in early June, the date, because of all this craziness going on, the date's still a little up in the air, but the idea is either June 2nd, June 4th, maybe another early June date. We're going to get a PS5 event. It's going to be a huge blowout event that's hopefully going to supersede the last Inside Xbox that we got, and I think we're all a little disappointed from. That being said, we are going to be getting a lot more Xbox stuff. That's a reason to consider subscribing, because not only are we going to be covering PS5, but we're going to be covering all Xbox Series X and everything in between. So if you love us, sub us. If you like the video, throw us a like. Let us know down below what you guys think we're going to see in this PS5 event. So I think we're going to break it down into three kind of core groups. First is the launch party slash launch first party launch games. We're going to go through what we think and why, talk about maybe what they're going to show at this event that will be on at launch day, and maybe just stuff that they would show but maybe won't come out. Next would be price slash release dates, and finally would be maybe any sort of Xbox Series X features we already know about, like smart delivery and backwards compatibility, how those are going to be integrated maybe into the PS5 if Sony decides to pick any of that up. So all that being said, all that out of the way, let's get started. First party launch games. What do we think the PS5 is going to launch with? What do we think they're going to show us?
Well, you had the idea of Horizon Zero Dawn too. I don't want to steal that from you, so you want to elaborate on that one?
Yes. So I am almost 100% sure that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be one of the launch titles. The reason being so first of all, 7 months ago, and I recommend this will be in like the tags or something. It'll be somewhere probably in the cards for you guys to check out if you want. 7 months ago, I looked at every first party Sony studio and looked at what they were up to and tried to figure out what studio would launch with a game at launch. And it pretty much still holds true for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. It's kind of been leaked that they've said that they're working on Horizon Zero Dawn 2. So right off the bat, I think that's a reason. Next is there's actually a PC port of Horizon Zero Dawn 2 coming in about a month. So that would be, I think, a PC port of a first-party Sony game is kind of unprecedented, but I think it would be a good way for them to get other people in other communities, like the PC community, to play this good game, and then they'll see that the sequel's coming out and they'll want to buy a PS5 to play it. Maybe that's an idea. They also have a history of launch titles. Guerrilla Games launched Killzone Shadowfall for the PS4, so that would be another reason for them to have a launch game, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And the last thing is timing. Came out in 2017. If you look at other first-party Sony studios, they've had a long time since their last release. And 2017 going into late 2020, that's like 3+ years to have a game lined up. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah,
That's very well thought out.
I definitely agree that it's either going to be, well, I think it's definitely going to be Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I'm not sure if God of War 2 will be a launch title or very close to a launch title, but I think that's pretty likely we'll see that as well.
Yeah, let's finish Horizon Zero Dawn then, because I agree with you on God of War. Do we have any other thoughts on Horizon? I think we see.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing you already mentioned this, but I would highlight again that Horizon Zero Dawn original is porting to PC, which I think is an even better reason. I think that's probably the biggest reason that we're going to see Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Because they're getting the engine to work on, yeah.
Right, and if like you're going to introduce this old game to a bunch of new players, what better to do than release the subsidiary to the game, the sequel, and get everyone in to buy PlayStations.
So on God of War, I agree with you, Jake. I think we're going to see it. I don't think it's going to be a launch title, if only because that came out only 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it was also one of the biggest hits for PlayStation, so I don't think they're going to throw in two of their biggest PS4 hits in the very beginning.
They're also somewhat similar games. Like they both have a fantasy element to them. They're both pseudo kind of open world-ish narratively driven games. So I think they might just also be too similar.
Right.
I also think so. What about Spider-Man?
I have that on my list.
Well, yeah. Well, why don't you
So
say what you think
my
about
actual guess for if I was gonna, I just kind of looked through some of the big Sony IP, and my actual guess for a launch title would be Gran Turismo, the newest installment of Gran Turismo.
Fair,
They
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but those come out pretty much like clockwork.
Yeah.
I expect that Xbox will probably launch with Forza, so you can compete head to head. It's a totally different genre, so you're not going to be competing against yourself. It also appeals to different players than Horizon or potentially God of War. So that's my actual guess. Not super excited about it. Not a racing guy myself, but Spider-Man 2 I think will also be, if not a launch title, close to launch, maybe first year, because it's somewhat unique in that it's kind of like a time-sensitive franchise. Like Spider-Man's pretty hot right now, doing well in terms of motion pictures once again.
Too bad there aren't any motion pictures anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But the point stands that he's at a relative peak of popularity, I would say, for the past maybe decade. So you want to churn out those video games while Spider-Man's still relevant.
I just think that from a kind of transcending video gaming and entering pop culture kind of, he's the best IP to throw. If you want everyone to buy a PS5, you get Spider-Man out as soon as
you get the Spider-Man game.
Batman's had a couple good games.
Batman has
Batman's had a couple good games.
Batman has had a couple good games.
With the PS3, that was the thing. It was Spider-Man and the PS3. And I remember that distinctly. It's interesting that you guys bring that up, because it's that was when you say PS3, the first thing I think of is that was a Spider-Man console.
I think Marvel Ultimate Alliance might have originally been exclusive to PlayStation. I might be wrong about that for PlayStation 3, but that's kind of
I mean, he's been on the PS1 and the PS2. He's been around. Sony kind of bought the IP in the early 2000s. So
all true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I don't think it's going to be a launch title though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be maybe a first year. This is also not really necessarily a launch title guess, but I think also fairly early on could be our next Ratchet and Clank entry. Again, it's just kind of a different genre, appeals to a slightly different demographic than Horizon. So that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. So looking at the PS4 launch, we were blessed with Knack. Ooh. So there's a shot at Knack 3, but I think a more kid-friendly game could happen at launch.
I mean, we're also getting Fortnite on launch, which is kid-friendly, I guess, kid-oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do have a lot of games coming to PlayStation 5 that are not first party as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of launch titles.
I think this console generation is going to have the most amount of things to play on day one, just because at least Xbox is already confirmed to be doing this forward compatibility thing. It seems like there's going to be a lot to play on day one, even if it's a cross-gen type of thing.
Yeah.
So the last, I think, developer that we would talk about would be Bluepoint, and they're kind of known for doing really, really good remasters and ports. The last big one was Shadow of the Colossus. There's a rumor that they're doing Demon Souls. We can talk about if we think that is what they would be doing, because that is still tied to Sony as an exclusive, or on PlayStation 3. But they could be working on anything. And they are confirmed to be working. Their last project was a while ago, so I think they are about due.
Demon Souls would be badass. That would be a pretty good, back pocket. Just kind of whip it out as hey, remember this? Exclusive.
You like demons? You like souls?
You like demons?
Demon Souls would be cool, but I would much rather see Bloodborne 2 than Demon Souls.
Well, that would have to come from Software, presumably.
Yeah, and they're busy making games and stuff.
With George R. R. Martin.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, I had a bunch of thoughts for what they could be working on, like Eco, which only because they did the Shadow of the Colossus remake. Eco is kind of like in the same. They're like cousins almost game wise. But it could be any first party Sony game really. But do we think a remake is the right thing to do for launch?
I think it depends. It depends on how much, it's a matter of where do you want to put your resources, right? So like if it's relatively easy to whip out a remake of Eco, to add to, as you said, to add to just a catalog of games to play on day one, then sure. I don't think it's going to knock anyone's socks off.
I think a Demon Souls remake would be good enough for launch, because that's like bringing back I don't know. I wouldn't say a nostalgic title, but it's recognizable enough based on the success of Dark Souls that you get that recognition while also being so far removed from what most people have probably played at this point.
I mean, Chris, if I read you right, they are attached to the rights for Demon Souls. Could they make Demon Souls 2? Like even without the
No, they From Software made Demon Souls, but the game Demon Souls is a PlayStation exclusive. So I don't know. It's just I think we agree that Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is most likely to be like the day one game that is like the killer app. It's just to me it's interesting that for years Sony has known that Xbox Series X is going to launch with Halo Infinite. Like that is what they're competing with. I mean, and Halo is not a perfect franchise for sure, but it is a big one. So you think that they're going to want to have something of that equivalence, and I think Horizon Zero Dawn could hold its own.
It's a sci-fi shooter, kind of.
I think it's hard to compete with Halo, because
that's true.
I mean, even Halo is great, but I wouldn't say it's like the best game that's ever been made. But it has such a following that I feel like it's hard to ever compete with Halo.
Yeah, you gotta shoot your shot though.
Right, but Sony has like 5 amazing games to Microsoft's 1 Halo Infinite.
Yeah, Microsoft's really kind of pointy and sharp, and Sony's more broad. Like, they have a whole bunch more stuff that they can go with. And I'm not even remotely familiar with their stable, but, like, from a 10,000-foot view, they have so many different things that they could go with.
So. I mean, the only other thing I had thought of that I didn't mention, just because you bring up competing with Halo, Chris, would be Uncharted. That's kind of their equivalent flagship franchise. They're not really similar titles, but in terms of a first-party exclusive, game that's going to draw big numbers.
So unless Naughty Dog, so Naughty Dog does currently, right, or at least in the last gen, they've been doing Uncharted and The Last of Us. So unless they have had a separate team, The Last of Us launches like a month from the day that we're recording this. So yeah, unless they have a separate team working on this, I don't know.
Along with their super secret team working on Jak and Daxter 4.
Yeah, been hard at work on that one.
I fucking want that game so bad.
I mean, that's like that could be the Blue Point reboot. Like they could be doing a Jak and Daxter remaster or something for. They could.
Well,
I'm not saying they are.
Went out for the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, but like a really big like Blue Point does like overhauls. They don't do like upscales.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think it's super likely. It would be cool.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else on games? Sounds like we're sold on Horizon Zero Dawn. We'll probably see God of War, Spider-Man teased, but that's really it.
Yeah,
I think so.
All right. Well, what about the price and release date? So, I mean, as of right now, there is no official release date for the Xbox Series X or the price of that console. Do we think we're going to get either of those at this event? And we're likely not to get them in the next less than 2 weeks. So, who's going to shoot first?
I think you might get a vague release date, but it's too far out for the price.
I think Sony's going to let Xbox shoot first. I think they're content to just kind of one up.
I think they're not. Go ahead, Jake.
Isn't PlayStation launching, quote unquote, 2020 at some point? So, considering we're halfway through 2020, I would assume like holiday time 2020.
Yeah, but do you think we're gonna get an actual day?
Not to continually like bring up the global pandemic, but I don't know. I feel like we could have gotten a date, but they definitely don't want to miss holiday 2020 because the next optimal release window is not that close by. So I don't know if they have that date. I'm sure they're probably struggling to get into the 2020 window right now.
Yeah, I kind of imagine that they're not gonna risk giving a date that they would slip on. I think they'll just either give a month or not give anything for now.
Right. I think they'll just stick with 2020. They're both going to come out in October or November. That's what they're shooting for. It doesn't really matter. No, if that's what everyone expects.
I bet whoever, like, if Xbox says, like, November 14th or whatever, I bet Sony will say, like, the 13th, like, immediately after. Like, 100%. All right, and price, any thoughts?
Big. Expensive.
Well, yeah, expensive. But I don't think we're going to get it. I think they're waiting on Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, you did that really good video on pricing out what the Xbox will be most likely costing, at least what we've seen for the Series X, and it's expensive. But I think you're right. They're going to wait until Xbox releases their price point and then come out with theirs. I'm sure it'll be very close.
I believe, was it at the beginning of the last gen cycle where Microsoft announced the price first, and it was like reasonably more than the PlayStation, and that was a fairly big deal? Am I misremembering that?
Yeah, so they announced, Xbox One announced a $500 console where you had to have Kinect that was less powerful than the PS4, and at the time had to be online at all times and couldn't play used games. And then Sony came out and said, no Kinect, $100 less, more powerful console, used games, doesn't have to be online. So they really shot themselves in the foot.
And now I think they're both really cognizant of avoiding that narrative. Like, whoever is going to announce the price first is the other, party's going to try and undercut them. Like, I think they'll both postpone it as long as they can.
But Microsoft has more to prove.
That's true.
Yeah.
Microsoft has more egg on their face than Sony does. So
that's why I think Sony can wait.
Also Microsoft also doesn't necessarily look at Xbox as a money-making venture. They might just decide,
Well, but with all the studios they've been buying, it kind of shows changing commitments. It seems like they're trying to recover the ground they've lost, and time will tell if that actually works out.
Yeah, I'm with Jay though. I don't think their priority right now is releasing an Xbox that's going to destroy the PlayStation. I think they're really looking at like Game Pass and their subscription services to bring in the money, as well as sales on the PC platform. So I don't know. I don't see it being as fierce a competition as like Xbox One versus PlayStation 4, but I'm sure there's going to be very close eyes on both sides as to what the launch prices are going to be.
Do you think we'll actually get to see the box in this reveal? Because so far we've only seen that controller, that DualSense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I bet it was ridiculous.
We saw that prototype render and everyone was like, this is garbage.
That was the dev kit.
Yeah.
I bet it'll look ridiculous. Just based on the controller.
Yeah, it's going to be blob-shaped with a second blob suspended on a piece of clear acrylic above it, so it looks like it's floating.
Honestly, it might. It's going to look loud. That's like the word.
Yeah, it's going to be something. But considering if they're coming out 2020 or early 21, it's about time we actually see what it looks like. So this would be a good time to show it, especially if this is their blowout conference. I would expect to see some actual footage, a real console or something.
Yeah, it's weird to show games for something that you can't even like relate the box to.
Right.
Well, where Xbox has already shown theirs, going
They showed
along
theirs
with the
6
earlier
months ago.
theories.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to some Xbox features, and I want to highlight Xbox features, one, because they're the obvious direct competition, but two, because I think Xbox has been in the past few years and is continuing to show that they're doing some very pro-consumer things, likely because they were outsold 2-1 last gen. But regardless, they've set up a lot of like nice, cool systems. There's three I want to talk about. The first is smart delivery. And for those who don't know, smart delivery basically is going to allow you to do something like buy a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 or Assassin's Creed Valhalla on your Xbox One, and when the Series X comes out, you can just go buy that and put that same Xbox One disc in, same for Halo Infinite, and you get an upgraded version. Like it has a patch ready to go, and it's forward compatible, if you will, and it plays better, runs better, is a better experience. Is Sony going to do that? The next thing I want to talk about is backwards compatibility. Sony said that they have a percentage of the top 100 most played PS4 games working on their backwards compatibility program. My question is, will it extend back to PS3, 2, and 1 like the Xbox backwards compatibility? And will it have any enhanced features like the Xbox backwards compatibility where you can play Xbox games at 4K, for example, like original Xbox games with that same disc? And the last thing is kind of this Games Pass thing that we're talking about. Will there be a Games Pass-like thing, and will there be a streaming like X Cloud service that comes with it? So I don't know. We can. Do we want to talk about smart delivery first?
I'd like to start with backwards compatibility.
Yeah, let's start there.
Every time a new console comes out, I feel like this is constantly a hot topic for everyone. The Xbox supporting all the way back to like the original is unbelievable. I think, like you said, that's an artifact of them getting dominated last generation. So I expect PlayStation to come back with backwards compatibility for PlayStation 4, just because they have to if they want to compete to the Xbox. But I would be very surprised if you get full backwards compatibility all the way back to PlayStation.
I totally agree. That was my exact line of thought. Like, and I think from a consumer standpoint, like I'm someone who had a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, but like that's not every PlayStation 5, owner. Like the relevant thing is can I play the PlayStation 4 games, and I just don't think they're going to put in the effort to go all the way back. I don't think they feel like they have to.
The percentage of people that own PS1 discs like that they have at the ready is so small. Yeah,
right.
I am in that percentage, but it is not a large percentage.
See, I would disagree with that, because if you're building a console with this monster hardware in it, it's not that hard to put in, just like bake in a software emulator. Like you could do it, and you're not appealing to a whole bunch of people, but to the people that you're appealing to strongly, which is why Xbox did it. Like the percentage of people that have, are going to buy the new Xbox that have original Xbox games is also really, really small, but it's clearly in their interest financially to do that.
And the people who make YouTube content like us are, fall in that category.
Right. So, like if it's minimal overhead, which it probably is. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but like in this day and age, it's probably not that hard to put in the extra stuff to emulate a PS1.
I think three would be hard.
Yeah, I think the only difficulty with this is they really had to plan this out, because it's not hard to make an emulator, but it's hard to make a stable emulator that plays everything. And that would take planning. I mean, Sony can undoubtedly do it, but they would have had to plan this out for years in advance. And I don't think they ever had the conversation of how do we destroy Xbox in the next generation. Oh, it's going to be backwards compatibility for all of our consoles. I don't think that ever happened.
The flip side is also, if you let me play my own copy of Jak and Daxter, then you can't sell me Jak and Daxter for PlayStation 5 unless it's like, you then have to tell me, oh, no, it's worth it. It's like a new game. It's like that much better that you're going to have to spend $30, $40, $60.
that's a hard argument when it's a disc. I find like Nintendo has kind of the advantage here because it's like you can't use the media in the next generation of consoles because they keep changing it. But like when it's just a disc, it's why can't I put this in my PS whatever and it'll work? It looks exactly the same, with the exception of like the black PS1 disc. Like it looks the same. Why shouldn't it work?
Right, but just because they can do it, like they could decide, like if they let me do it, then they can't sell it to me again. You know what I mean?
Well, there's probably a return point with that. Like if you go too far with that, you think people appeal, or you seem to people like you're money grubbing, you know. But there's also how much effort are you willing to put into this appealing to a small percentage of the population. I think there'll be a good bit of backwards compatibility.
I would love to see it.
Well, speaking of possible money grubbing and selling people the same thing again, smart delivery, I predict, will be a huge deal if Sony does not bring something similar. Do we think that kind of idea, like, so when I buy The Last of Us 2 in a month, and in 4 months from now I buy my PS5, am I going to be able to put in The Last of Us Part 2 and it's going to run at 4K 60 instead of, 1800p 30? Or yes. Are they going to say, screw you, buy The Last of Us 2 remaster?
Nah, it'll run.
Yeah?
Because it's probably like most of the same technology as backwards compatibility. Like it's fundamentally, can you play a PlayStation 4 disc?
Well, and they would so they would have to leverage the new hardware to make it better. That's what I'm asking.
I don't think it'll be that much better, but I also don't think that the Xbox games will be that much better.
Yeah,
we just went through this with like no dishes to real 4K, no dishes to real 4K, and like they both were dog shit.
I think there's a good point. Like there's diminishing returns, and people have experience developing for Xbox One, and Series X is going to be new, so maybe it won't be as good. But I don't know. We haven't heard anything about anything close to technology like this from Sony. So it kind of makes me worried that maybe this is not something they have.
Yeah. The only reason I think it might exist is because the devs, even console exclusive devs, like first party devs, are already used to making games with 2 SKUs in mind. Like currently, if you're a dev making God of War, you're already making a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 4 Pro version. Like you're already used to leveraging multiple hardwares. So it wouldn't surprise me if they threw in PS5 for some cross-party titles like Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Dreams. Even God of War. It wouldn't surprise me if day one there was some God of War thing that you could get a patch and play it better.
I completely agree with that. Like, so much of it is on the back end that the CD can just act as your software key. People expect a download anyway these days. Like, you could just give that over here's the latest version, install it over Ethernet or whatever, and you're fine.
Totally.
And the amount of loss that they would get for not including that where Xbox has it, like, it's just not worth it. Like, if you want to seem like a money grubber, what you try to get people to do is buy the same game 2 years in a row because a new console came out.
And this is already confirmed for third-party games. Like, the EA Sports games are going to have this.
On PlayStation 5?
No, on Xbox. So if you buy, like, Madden 20 or 21, I don't know how that works. If you buy the newest Madden game on Xbox One, it will be better on Series X, and it will be free on Series X.
Yeah, and it's no secret that smart delivery was coming, so they had plenty of warning. Like Brian said, developing for 2 sets of hardware is not that hard anymore. Clock speeds are pretty much the same. There's not a lot of difference between how the hardware on the PS4 and the PS5 run. It's not as difficult as it once was. So I would be surprised if they don't have it. I'm just surprised they haven't said anything about it.
Right. Okay, so last but not least, do we think Sony, they already kind of have PS Now, which we've reviewed on this channel, at least I have. Do we think they're going to ramp that up and kind of make it better, like beef it up to come on par with Game Pass? So are we going to, are they going to push it in the same way that they're pushing Game Pass? Because right now, Microsoft is basically saying, yeah, we sell our first party games, but don't even, they hardly market them as like standalone pieces. They're like, buy Game Pass and you'll get Halo Infinite. They don't say buy Halo Infinite. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Like it's coming out on Game Pass. They're not like, oh yeah, buy it on Xbox.
Yeah. So do we think Sony's going to start leaning in that direction or no?
No.
I kind of agree.
Sony doesn't really lean in directions. Like, that's a Microsoft thing. Every time they reveal a new console, they're like, get excited about this new thing. And sometimes it like stays on and sometimes it doesn't. And Sony's always like, okay, like here's 10% of that. And if that kind of works, here's 10% more. And if that kind of works, here's 10% more. They just don't tend to lean heavily into new features that way. They don't promote them that much.
And they destroyed this generation, saying like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, like they crushed this generation just selling single player, extremely ambitious games. Like they sold killer apps.
Yeah. And they've had every type of, new technology and new, feature that there has been over the years. They just, you don't remember them because they never integrated them that heavily into their, their titles. Like there is no embarrassing, retrospective of Sony Connect. They had PlayStation Move. They just didn't really feature it that heavily. And they didn't, leverage it the way that Xbox tried to.
Yeah, I don't think they've got any reason to go hard into the streaming service. I think they can afford to sit back and wait and see what happens, because those are really kind of untested waters still. And if Google can't really make it work, are you going to be able to make it work with your servers? Think about that for a moment.
But
right.
I think Game Pass is going to be like the next groundbreaking technology for the games industry. I think it's going to absolutely shake up the way we play games. So I think Sony's not planning on it, but I think they're going to have to follow along eventually.
But they're not going to trailblaze it.
No, definitely not. That's not Sony.
Well, sometimes it's not the best to be the first guy to the party. Like you see what works and you see what doesn't work and you improve on that.
And that's Google.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be like too complicated from like a development standpoint or a tech standpoint for them to expand their current PlayStation net. What is it called?
PlayStation Now.
Plus? Now.
Yeah.
If the converse of if Google can't do it, then who can? Is that if Microsoft can do it, who can't? Like, just roll that shit out. Just make it happen. If they're slurping in gobs of money, just be like, oh, by the way, you can do that on PlayStation Now. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, from the technological side, it's not easy. And if anyone can do it, it's Microsoft or Amazon, not Google. So I think there's a lot that PlayStation would have to do, but I think they're going to have to do something. And the first step would be turning PS Now into something more like Game Pass. The next step would be turning it into xCloud. But
well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was all I had. I think they have to do it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add.
Game Pass are pretty comparable. It's like you pay a subscription to download titles that you want, and they have a certain library of titles that are available.
So the core difference between PS Now and Game Pass, the reason that Game Pass was a big deal, I mean, love or hate the Xbox One launch titles, what is and continues to be really nice about Game Pass is Halo Infinite comes out on Game Pass. Day one, you're playing Halo Infinite. Like, it's the same. Launch day, you're playing Halo. A $60 game comes out, you're playing that first-party game. Forza Horizon comes out, you're playing that day one. Every single Xbox first-party game comes out day one on Game Pass. And so PS Now, they got a little better with it kind of recently in the last year, they had a limited run of God of War about a year after it came out for 90 days. Like that's and that they had Uncharted 4 and then they pulled them off after 90 days. That's the kind of like that's where they're not as committed. And the streaming service, I mean, I reviewed it.
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's like not a tech issue. That's like they want you to buy the game thing.
I know that's why I'm saying like that's the fundamental difference. They could
right,
pivot.
So if they see Microsoft is successful with Game Pass separate from xCloud, then there's no reason why they couldn't just say like, okay, that because as Brian said, like all these games are basically downloads now. They don't really run on the disc. Is like that was my impression.
Yeah. You have you put the disc in and you have to install the game. Like,
yeah, so there's no reason why they couldn't say like they already are basically giving everyone who plays the game a download. Just if you pay the subscription, okay, now you can get the download that way too. Like they're already offering downloads online, basically.
Yeah, if they could flip I mean, their streaming it only streams at 720p right now. It works though, in my experience. Like it works better than GeForce Now or whatever the hell it is. Like it works. It's serviceable. But yeah, they could flip the switch one day and just say, first party titles just like Xbox day one, like they're going to be on PSNow, and that would be huge.
Yeah, that would be huge, and I think that's going to come at some point in the next generation.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Cool. Well, I think we're good with this PS5 event though. I think we're starting to talk all next gen instead of just one day. So I think we're going to wrap it up. So, Brian, what should our PlayStation fans be doing right about now?
Well, if you're looking to buy your own superhero franchise to help the launch of your next-gen console, go ahead and hammer your thoughts on that down on the word box there. And here in Cohesive Friendship Unit, we do occasionally give shit away, so, that's one of the added benefits to your subscription, in addition to notifications and whatnot about the various doings that we have here on the channel. There is a veritable shit ton more content like this here on the channel if you're interested in things like this. If you watched this far in the video, you probably liked it, so go ahead and click that subscribe button and smoke them and forget them, guys. That's all for me tonight, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. We'll catch you guys next time.